Paul names the one UFC fighter he won't face. Jake Paul has told the Timbo Sugar Show podcast the name of the one UFC fighter he wouldn't want to fight: Israel Adesanya. During his interview, he said, "He is tall as fuck. And bro, his striking. I mean, I think he's arguably one of the best strikers, top 3 ever in the history of the sport. There are a lot of UFC fighters. I think he is literally the only one who I wouldn't fight." He thinks the current middleweight champion is too tall and too skilled on the feet for a rookie like Paul to stand up to him at this point.
Dana came to you and said, "Hey, we're going to give one fight off to box you. Would you want to fight Izzy for boxing?"
Ooh.
Honestly, bro, he's like, he's probably the only fighter in the UFC that I wouldn't fight.
Yeah. I mean,
Like-
good to be honest.
Have you been around? That motherfucker's like bigger than you'd think. Have you been around him in person? Like taller?
100%, he's tall as fuck, and bro, he like his striking. I mean, I think he's probably, arguably, one of the best strikers, top 3 ever in the history of the sport. You know, but there's a lot of UFC fighters. I think he's probably, literally the only one who I wouldn't.
Raul Rosas Jr. could become the youngest fighter in UFC history. Raul Rosas Jr. is only 17 years old. However, the promising youngster has signed a contract this Monday to compete on September 20th on Dana White's Contender Series against Mondo Gutierrez in exchange for a UFC contract. A person with knowledge of the booking decided to inform MMA Junkie on Tuesday about the matchup, but asked to remain anonymous as the promotion has yet to officially announce it. If he wins, he could become the youngest fighter in UFC history, breaking the record of Chase Hooper, who was 19 when he debuted in his first UFC fight. Rosas turns 18 in early October, so if White were to award him a UFC contract, he would be an adult after his debut inside the octagon. Dana White shares his list of the 5 best UFC athletes of all time. Even the Ultimate Fighting Championship president Dana White has preferences about who are the best fighters in the organization's history. After much intrigue and anticipation, he has recently shared in an interview on the YouTube channel GQ Sports the list of the best UFC athletes of all time. According to Dana White, the best fighters include Jon Jones, Anderson Silva, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, and George St-Pierre. In addition, he has said, "There's so many other people that should be on there. Usman should be on there."
Dana, what fighters are on your top 5 all-time UFC list? Jon Jones, Anderson Silva, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, GSP. There's so many other people that should be on there. Usman should be on there.
Whatever you think about Jon, it's hard not to call them the GOAT. Jon Jones' coach thinks he can beat Francis Ngannou and Stipe Miocic. Jon Jones' heavyweight debut is one of the most anticipated moments in UFC history. As if that weren't enough, his big return could come against current UFC champion Francis Ngannou or former champion Stipe Miocic, both excellent opponents. According to his coach, he is convinced that Jones could defeat both fighters with no problem. In a recent interview with Submission Radio, trainer Brandon Gibson was asked to assess the threat level of Ngannou and Miocic should they end up being booked to face Jones, a 3-time 205-pound champion. And Gibson said he likes how Jones stacks up against anyone in the heavyweight division.
I saw Jon said something that was like Stipe needed a little bit more time so the fight could come together from that perspective. But I'm wondering, who do you think is the more dangerous fight for Jon, Stipe or Francis?
You know, Stipe is the greatest heavyweight champion in UFC history. You know, very well-rounded, lots of championship experience. He's shown so much resiliency, like in the trilogy with DC, and his ability to come back. You know, and Stipe's, you know, has victory over Francis as well. He's a great, well-rounded martial artist who's powerful, who has devastating knockout power in both hands. Yeah, and then, Francis just has that X factor, his size, his strength, and he can sleep anybody from any stance, from any angle. He doesn't need to be balanced. He can be punching off his back foot. It doesn't matter. So, they both have their challenges in their own unique ways. And we're going to have to take each of them very differently. But Jon Jones has the skill set to get his hand raised in both of those bouts. There's no doubt in my mind about it. There's nobody like Jon at heavyweight. Nobody as dynamic, as fast, as gifted in all of the disciplines as Jon is. So, and his IQ's off the chart. Not to say that these other guys aren't smart, brilliant fighters, but Jon Jones's IQ and comprehension of this game is unlike anybody else's in the world.
At light heavyweight, Jones is essentially undefeated. His only loss was a 2009 disqualification in a fight against Matt Hamill, which he dominated before connecting with an illegal elbow. It remains to be seen what his future will be against the UFC's greatest athletes. Paddy Pimblett shared his prediction for Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev at UFC 280. While attending UFC San Diego this past weekend, Paddy Pimblett made the following statement about the fight outcome. "It's gonna be a big fight, but I think Charles is gonna have too much for him. I think Charles will finish him in like 3. Something like that. He's been through a much higher caliber of opponents, competed against a lot more dangerous fighters, and he's come through the other side. And I just think he's got too many tools in his arsenal for Islam to deal with."
Paddy, just a quick one. Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira will be fighting for the title at UFC 280. Just wanted to get your opinion, how you think that fight goes down.
I think Charles Oliveira wins. I think he gets a finish within 3. Simple, you know what I mean? They're both unbelievable fighters. Islam is quality, but he hasn't fought the caliber opponent what Charles has fought. And I think Charles gives him so many tests that he hasn't been tested like he will against Charles. You know what I mean? He hasn't fought no one in the top 10, Islam. And he's getting a title shot. Yeah, never. Just Dan Uche, who was on like 3 weeks' notice. Yeah, Charles Oliveira all day.
Who do you think will take the win? Let us know your opinion in the comments below. Alex Pereira says Israel Adesanya won't make it 5 rounds at UFC 281. Pereira holds 2 wins over Adesanya in kickboxing. Their last encounter ended brutally, with Pereira knocking out Adesanya. After a long wait, the two will meet for the 3rd time inside the octagon. Adesanya will put the UFC middleweight championship on the line against Pereira on November 12, 2022. The action will take place inside Madison Square Garden in New York. Recently, Alex Pereira has given his prediction of what he expects the fight to be, and he has shown great confidence in himself. According to Alex, he doesn't believe many of Adesanya's challengers have figured out the timing of his kicks, so he is confident that his experience and knowledge of Adesanya's fighting style will be enough to defeat him. If you want to know the latest UFC news, be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the notifications bell, and click the like button so you don't miss any details about the upcoming fights. Thanks for watching. See you soon.